just going to get into Infusion and show you guys what it's going to look like. So right here I have one of our test environments. Your environment is up, but right now there's no data in there, so we wouldn't be able to look at anything. So right here is the home page of Infusion. This is what your new software is going to look like. Again, this is not the only time that you're going to see this. You guys are going to be getting in here very shortly as soon as we can set security, and you're going to be able to click around. But I want to go over some highlights and bells and whistles that Microsoft has put in there. The first thing is that there is not one way to navigate to a window. They have accommodated for all different ways to get to one location. So for example, at the top here they have what they call the toolbar. If I click on something in the toolbar, I can go to a respective area and I can enter a sales order. Well, there we go. Or I can enter a cash receipt. And real quick, let me go over what this means at the top. Cards are where your master information is held. So here's where you're going to have your customer cards, your salesperson, your vendors, your items, and then also your GL accounts. That is what we will be importing with this data round. So all of that information will be there for you. Transactions are where you're going to do actions. So you're going to enter a sales order, or you're going to enter a payment. You're going to enter a GL entry, you're going to enter a purchase order, you're going to enter an inventory transaction or do an inventory count. Inquiries is just as it sounds. This is just where you're going to look at things. So for example, you want to look at a customer's payment history. Like it'll tell you the average days to pay on a customer. Or you want to look at the life cycle of a PO, or look at the open transactions by vendor. You can't hurt anything in these screens. They're just looking and giving you summary information. And finally, we have canned reports. We call them canned reports because they come out of the Microsoft product. We want to make the distinction because with the Infusion solution, we're also going to give you a slew of reports that we have written for you that are more customized for this industry. So we have reports on like your unposted and posted sales, which is grouped by like supplier or brand or something. So to make that distinction, we call these canned reports because they're out of the box. These are what is out there for every customer that has Microsoft Dynamics GP. But rest assured, there's going to be lots more that you're going to get. So I can use the toolbar to navigate somewhere. So for example, I'm going to come here and I'm going to enter a cash receipt or a payment. Now you also have the option to navigate around using navigation panes. A lot of people like to use these if, like for example, all they do is focus on sales or AR all day long. They might want to be inside of the navigation pane because it displays it out all for them. Now, depending on your security, you might not have access to some of these little cubes here, like utilities or routines. But you can see the relationship here between transactions, and here's cash receipts. If I click that, it opens that same window that I was able to get to at the toolbar. So again, a lot of people like to use these if this is where you're going to live all day long. On any window, you can go to File and hit Add to Shortcuts, and it will add it as a shortcut on your home page. So instead of constantly navigating to this one window that you're always looking at, I just hit File, Add to Shortcuts, and if I go to my home page, on the left side here, it's going to show a list of those shortcuts that I have. So right here, it says Cash Receipt Entry. And just like that, without having to navigate through any one of those additional options, I can open that same window. There's also lots of other ways that you can build a customized homepage. So homepages can look different for every user ID. So Rhonda's homepage does not have to look like Trisha's. For example, you have quick links here. Quick links can do the same thing as what we did here by adding a shortcut, but they can also do a little bit more. So if I hit this change details here, I can hit add, and I can add a window. I can add a navigation list. I can add a web page. So if I'm constantly going to this website for like payroll or something, I can add that as a quick link on my homepage, and as soon as I click that, it'll launch that in the web browser. I can add an external program or file. That's like an Excel workbook. We're going to show you as we go through these walkthroughs that we use Excel a lot to interact with the software. And instead of browsing to the file location and clicking that workbook, you can add it as a quick link here, and then you have a one-stop shop on your homepage. An extender you guys wouldn't use, but extender is a tool inside the system to add new windows. So you wouldn't add that, but we can add new windows for you. Up here we have our reminders. We are big proponents of these, especially this open orders unposted and open invoices unposted. These are real time. So for example, throughout the day, you're going to see as sales reps hit send in Pocket Advantage, this stack of paper right here will grow. So you're going to be able to watch your orders come in throughout the day. And if at 11 o'clock you notice that your open orders are 0 and your open invoices are 0, you know that something's wrong and that orders aren't coming in from Pocket Advantage. This gives you complete visibility into the system right away. And if you don't like the little stack of paper, you can also add them as words. That's an option. Another great thing about these little reminders is that I can click on this. So for example, like if my job is to monitor orders or invoices that go on hold because the customer is past due, I have a custom little reminder here that says, here's every sales document that's on a hold called no buy past due. If I click this, it's going to open a reporting tool called SmartList. And once it loads, I'm sorry, this is a little slow because I'm going through VPN on your internet.
Or amazing internet.
Once it loads, it gives me complete visibility to what those 3 transactions are. And I have some high-level information here, like the customer name, the amount of the sales document, what the document number is. But not only that, but I can double-click and get into that actual order and either, 1, remove the hold, or 2, I can do some inquiries to see like what their activity is and see, should I be releasing this customer from hold? Those reminders are huge, and whoever you tell us is in charge of orders and watching invoices throughout the day, we'll load those on their home pages. But this is completely customizable, and by customizable I mean you can do it. Like, you do not have to be a programmer, you do not have to know anything special about the software. You literally come into here and you hit new and you add your reminder and say, show me on my home page when the number of records in that report or smart list is greater than 0. And that's it. We're going to review that with you guys, and the first couple times that you want to add new smart lists onto your homepage will help you do it. But I want you to know that in the future, you do not have to call us. This is something that you can completely do on your own. Another thing on your homepage is My Reports. So these will run your canned reports for you immediately. So for example, at month end, your accounting department or whoever might be running the AR trial balance. If I come into one of these canned reports, I can set this option and call it like month-end AR. I have the option, there's a better one that I want, historical. So I can save this as month-end AR, and instead of saying print historically, show me what my AR was at the end of April, I can say, okay, I'm going to do a smart date and say, print me at what this report looks like at the end of the previous month. And if I hit, like, let's also say that I only want to do it for like spirits or on-premise, I mean. There we go. Now I can add this to my reports, and it will add it to my home page under that section. And then at the end of every month, instead of going through, oh, look, I've exceeded my reports section. I can hit more. Instead of going through to that report option, setting that option every time and hitting print, I can just click that quick link on my home page. Oh, this is taking me a little farther than I wanted. I can click that link on my home page and it'll run that report for me. I don't have to reset anything, so running reports at the end of the month is as simple as clicking a button. Finally, one little cool bell and whistle that you can add on your sidebar here is what we call a macro. If you're familiar with Excel, you might already know what a macro is, but in essence, it's just a recording of certain clicks and buttons inside of the system. So for example, you might tell us, hey, when I go to this window, I always have to click this button, and then click this button to get the information that I want. And that's 3 clicks that I really don't feel like doing. We can record a macro for you, and not just we. Again, that's something that we can show you. You do not have to be a programmer. And you can load that macro, and then the system will click those buttons for you. So for example, I have one here called consolidation macro. If I click this, hopefully this will go well. It did all of that for me. It opened the window, it set my search criteria, it hit redisplay, and I didn't have to do anything except click that one button. You can also assign it to a hotkey on your keyboard so that instead of coming to your home page and hitting the button, you can just hit like F9 and it'll run those tasks for you. Now, inside of the system, as you're noticing, this is mouse driven, so you are going to have to move your mouse. But you have some options under user preferences to say how you want to move through fields. So for example, you have the option to say, I'm a tab person. When I move through fields, I like to hit tab. Or you have the option to say, I'm a return person. As I move through fields on a window, I'd rather do return. Again, completely customizable by user. You can also set, when I print, I want the system to automatically send it to a printer, or I'd rather send it to the screen most of the time, and on the off chance that I am going to send something to the printer, then I'll just click around and send it to the printer instead. You can also set your display options here. So if a field is required, you can say I want it to show red and bold, but you have a few options there. You want to show black and maybe italicized. And linked fields, this is fantastic inside the software. Anything that's blue and underlined, we like to do that because it kind of looks like a hyperlink to a web page. That will take you to an additional window. So anytime you see that, you click that, it'll launch an attached window. Now, there are some help options inside of the system. Again, obviously you have us, but at the top here, I have a help menu. And if I go to contents, I have access to all sorts of pre-made user manuals from Microsoft to help navigate through the system. And I have a search feature here as well. So for example, if I want to learn more about running statements, I have statement of cash flow, but then I also have, where is like customer statements? Statements of changes, statements of retained earnings, etc. So there's lots of different ways that you can navigate and get canned, if you will, Microsoft help inside the system. There's also the ability on any window that you open, if you're not sure what certain buttons will do, for example, one window that has a lot of different options, which is really great but can be overwhelming at first, is running statements in AR. You have lots of different options inside of here, and if you're like, I have no idea what this means, again, you can call us, but if you hit F1 on any window, it will launch that Microsoft help for you, but it will already be moved to the spot where you need to say, where you're looking at this window in particular. So it tells you this is how you got here. If you click here, it'll list all the fields alphabetically and give you an explanation of each field. Or if there's buttons in the window that you're not sure what they're going to do, same thing, click here, alphabetical, it'll list each button and a little description of what that button does. It also gives you some hyperlinks to some other articles, like an overview, setting up statements, emailing statements, etc. So F1 on any window is a great resource that's right at your fingertips. And again, not to sound like a broken record, but keep in mind that you have us, you have your customer source page that we went over in the slideshow, you have Google. Google is fantastic. There's tons of blogs out there, there's forums, etc. There are people that dedicate their lives to making websites all about Microsoft Dynamics GP. There's one in particular, Victoria Uden. Anytime you Google Microsoft Dynamics GP, she comes up. She's got a fantastic page. So that might not be for you right now as we're starting this implementation process, but in a year from now, when you're feeling frisky and you're like, I can figure this out on my own, just open up Google and there's tons of resources out there for you. In addition, you're also going to get a user manual from us, which is customized to your daily processes. So you're going to have lots of resources for yourself. So let's talk about the reporting that's available to you. We talked a little bit, obviously we have our canned reports. We've seen people run those for like trial balances for AR, AP, inventory. You also have these inquiries. So for example, I can come down to here and I have a whole bunch of inquiries on customers. Right here I have a receivable summary. And let's see if I can get some test stuff. There's not a lot of balances in there, but right here I can get an overview of the sales totals, any debit memos, any credit memos, any returns, and the total open AR for this customer. It'll also show me here in the bottom left-hand corner how that AR is broken into aging buckets, which you guys have named. You also have the inquiry of transactions by customer. So if you know the customer and you want to see their history, let's see if we can get something. Here's where you can come to look at every sales document inside of the system, every credit memo, every payment. And again, let's take a look here at this blue underline, which we can call hyperlinks, if you will. Anything that's blue and underlined will take you to an additional window. So I've selected this payment. If I click this, it takes me to the original payment. And not only that, if I hit apply, it will also show me if this payment was applied to an invoice. And I could click on that invoice, hit document number, and it would take me to that original invoice. So you have your canned reports, you have your inquiries, and we also touched a little bit on SmartList. Now SmartList here is a fantastic tool. If you've ever been inside of SQL, have you, Corey, no, okay, that's all right. Once you're inside of like, basically where all of this information is stored, in the ugly coding world, you have access to a ton of information, but you guys obviously aren't going to be in there. SmartList was designed as a way for you guys to access all of that information at your fingertips and customize it to however you'd like to see it. So for example, I'm big on focusing on sales, but keep in mind inventory, purchasing, all of that stuff is available for them too. I can come inside of sales and go to sales transactions. These are all of the little favorites that are saved out there that have customized this information to display it in a certain way. So for example, every SmartList has this little star. If I click this, it's just going to run, in general, some sales transactions inside the system. Now, I have access to a ton of different columns that I can add on my own. So if I come up here to columns, right here it's going to display all the default stuff that's showing, but I can hit add, and I have access to a ton of columns that I can add. Like let's say I want to see the invoice, but I also want to see the customer's aging period so I can know right away without drilling in or going to an additional inquiry window what their AR balance is. I have, there's literally a ton that you can add in. So for example, I'm going to add those three guys in there. And let's say I'm going to remove this guy. I don't really care about this guy. I'll leave the rest of that information in there. In addition to adding columns, I can also customize what I want to see here. So if I come up to the search feature, I have 4 fields that I can define a search criteria. So I might say, okay, I don't want to see back orders and orders. I only want to see invoices. So I can say, only show me when the document status, stop type, excuse me, is equal to an invoice. And let's say I only want to see it for a certain customer. Again, I have those inquiries available to me, but I can come in here and say, all right, I just want to see customer number 3001, I think it was. And just like that, I have access to all of their invoices. Again, I can double click and get back to the original invoice. So this is where we build those little reminders that will show on your home page. In your search criteria, for example, let's go down to one of those. So here I have open orders unposted. This shows me the document date, requested ship date, the number, customer number, amount, etc., if it's on hold or not. And if we look at our search criteria, all we said is show me when it's in order and show me when it's unposted. Unposted means basically it's not finalized. Posted would be when you're done with the sales order, it's been shipped, it's been picked, etc. And then this is what's added to your home page for you to monitor throughout the day. Now, when you guys get into the system, you'll have some smart list favorites, they call, on the side here. But those are ones that we just suggest that you have. You can 100% build these on your own. Like, as you can see here, it's really user-friendly. Your final option for reporting is what I talked about before, when you're going to have customized reports from us and you're going to have a slew of them. Every user is going to have a reports folder on their desktop, and this reports folder is going to give you access, security granted, to certain folders. So here I have a back office folder, I have a sales managers folder, I have a warehouse folder. If I click inside here, as you can see, there are a ton of other reports out there. Now we use these again to make maybe a little bit prettier presentation to managers, or we make lots of reports for people that you're not giving a user license to Infusion, but they still want to have that information outside of the system. So for example, I have a report called Show Me Any Back Orders, where there's quantity available for the item. So the back order should be able to release and go to the customer. I have a report, we have this awesome report called the Exception Report, which is one that runs and compares what has been sent from Pocket Advantage versus what's been imported into Infusion, and that will help you catch anything that might be missing if for some reason the Inventive server went down. So you're going to have access to all of these little pretty reports. And then you're also going to have access to all of these Excel workbooks. We're going to go through each one of these in a walkthrough, but these workbooks serve as real-time updates inside of Infusion. So you don't have to be inside of the system to add a new customer. You can add a new customer from this Excel workbook. And as soon as you hit submit, it imports it into the system and you're done. So there is no lack of resources out there for you, and the goal of these walkthroughs is going to break these down to say, okay, today we're talking about entering payments. Here's where you can do it outside of the system, here's where you can do it inside of the system, here are all the report resources available to you. So don't be overwhelmed. Again, we're going to break these down by section, and it's going to be really great. Good. Any questions or anything that you're particularly excited about basic user navigation inside of the system here?
No F keys.
No F keys, unless you want them. You can have those macros assigned to one of your F keys, and it can do something very special for you. Good. Well, we're excited for you guys to get in there. But before you get in there, number one, we have to get you data, and number two, we have to get your security set. So that's where we're going to go to next. So any questions before I stop the recording on this one? Okay.